according to a new report, pharmaceutical companies have basically, been shown to have been ripping off cancer patients with incredibly expensive drugs. Now, this is not something that is unheard of. This is not something that we don't already know. We can see it reflected in the prices. But this new report shows how government stepping in, number one, proves that, again, these companies are price gouging cancer patients on much needed drugs, and the government can actually do something about it. So now, recently, the Biden administration passed something called the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, there are some provisions in there that were, that are helpful towards people or to people who are having difficulty trying to afford certain high-priced medications. So now, according to a report published Wednesday by Patients for Affordable Drugs, cancer patients will be able to benefit substantially from the IRA's $2,000 cap on annual out-of-pocket medicine spending for Medicare Part D in 2025. So, look, one of the reasons that I have an issue with the IRA is not the fact that some of the provisions help people. No, I'm all for that. It's that it takes effect so late. 2025 for this, it's 2023, so cancer patients can be ripped off for 2 more years. And not only that, but I think it's 2026 is when Medicare will actually be able to negotiate the prices of 10 prescription drugs. So there's a lot of work here that needs to be done. This could be a lot stronger. It really isn't. That said, is it going to help people? Yes. In fact, of the nearly 62,000 people on traditional Medicare who receive brand name cancer drugs through Medicare Part D, 99% will see savings from the out-of-pocket spending cap. Well, that's great. Now, on average, the population will also see savings of more than $7,500 once that spending cap is in place in 2025. Some will see savings of over $19,000 by that same year. So that's great. Now, the thing is that this report also, while showing, hey, look at all these wonderful savings people are going to have, that also points out that, wait a minute, that's how badly people were getting screwed. Between 2017 and 2021, according to a recent investigation by Representative Katie Porter's office, the average initial price of a new Part D cancer drug rose by more than 25% to over $235,000 annually when adjusted for inflation. Pharmaceutical companies then raise prices on these drugs year after year. So, David Mitchell, founder of Patients for Affordable Drugs, and a blood cancer patient whose medications come with a list price of more than $900,000 a year, said in a statement on Wednesday that cancer patients, the majority of whom are on Medicare, face annual out-of-pocket costs of more than $16,500. It's a lot of money. People cannot afford this. Now, the historic IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, includes policies that will bring needed relief to millions of patients, especially older Americans with cancer. Said Mitchell, we've been waiting for this relief for far too long. Now, look, as I mentioned before, it could have been stronger. It should have been stronger. But thanks to lobbying efforts from the pharmaceutical industry, who are now also pushing back against this, it doesn't go far enough. And that's why. And that's why. Now, that said, what literal is in there, yes, it will help people, and I'm all for helping people. That said, it's really, really bad for cancer patients out there. Not only do they have to deal with cancer, but they have to deal with price gouging pharmaceutical companies. Again, this is where they make the majority of their money. It is not on vaccines. Okay, vaccines, again, are incredibly cheap to make. The federal government tends to fund most of the R&D on these vaccines. It's generally medications like this. For example, Ibrance, which is a breast cancer medication. According to the report, Pfizer has hiked the price of it every year since it came to market in 2015. Today, the list price is more than $15,000 per bottle. according to this report. Celgene BMS has almost tripled the price of Revlimid, a drug to treat multiple myeloma, since it came to market in 2006. Despite being on the market for more than 15 years, the drug remains one of the best-selling products in the world. Much of these sales are paid for by taxpayers, with Medicare Part D spending $5.8 billion on the drug in 2021 for 45,601 beneficiaries. Jackie Trapp, a multiple myeloma patient in Wisconsin, told Patients for Affordable Drugs that Revlimid costs her $20,000 each year on Medicare. Quote, "To afford it, I have fundraised, searched for grants, sold furniture, and my husband's truck, and have zeroed out our savings. The price of Revlimid has had real impacts on my husband and my quality of life. It is already unfair that I am likely to leave my husband all alone sooner than I would like, but now I fear of leaving him bankrupt as well." So this is what's going on. And she's just one of many people who have to go through something similar. A recent American Cancer Society Action Network survey of 1,218 cancer patients and survivors found that more than 70% of respondents said they made significant lifestyle changes in order to afford care, including delaying major purchases, 36%, depleting most or all their savings, 28%, going into more credit card debt, 28%, and borrowing money from relatives and friends, 20%. That's the reality that are facing Americans every single day in this country, thanks to pharmaceutical profiteering. And yet, these on the other side, you have pharmaceutical companies that are suing because of these very incredibly mild, modest, tiny reforms in the IRA. Merck, whose cancer drug Keytruda, which carries an annual list price of $175,000, sued the Biden administration last week to block the Medicare price negotiation provision within the IRA. Keytruda and Revlimid, according to Patients for Affordable Drugs, say that they're in the top 10 drugs for U.S. sales in 2021, and that their manufacturers have applied for more than 180 patents on each of them. Quote, "Research shows that when drug corporations amass dozens of patents, competition from lower-priced generics and biosimilars is delayed, leaving patients and taxpayers footing the bill for billions in unjust profits," according to the group. Now, they added that, fortunately, there are bills in the 118th Congress that crack down on abuse of the patent and regulatory system. If these bills become law, they will enable more affordable drugs to come to market more quickly, providing relief for patients struggling to pay for overpriced medications. Now, the problem is, and by the way, I love that there are bills that get introduced, but let's be honest, I don't think they're going anywhere. Look, with so much lobbying going on in Congress, I don't see these bills making it past the Senate, much less the Republican House. Because you have people that on both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, that are paid for by pharmaceutical companies. I think the largest, group that donates to politicians. And we see why. We see the effect. And so you have people that are owned essentially by these giant corporations, multinational pharmaceutical companies, that are not interested in solving this problem. Because to them, it's not a problem. The status quo right now is amazing for them. While reports like this just reinforce how bad it is for the rest of us, the 99%. Of course, things need to change drastically. It's a crisis. But unfortunately, until we get big money, corporate money, out of politics, nothing will fundamentally change.